So, have you made your decision concerning Subject 13? Eva looked directly at Dr. Ross. Yes, I have. I want it. Its vital signs are good. Body mass and structure are much better than the other subjects. She had pored over Subject 13's files well into the night, impressed with how it handled treatment that killed or rendered useless most other subjects. Dr. Ross nodded, his expression a mixture of approval and lingering hesitance. Very well, but you are required to have at least 2 armed guards with you at all times. I do not want Subject 13 shot, objected Eva. I agree. It would be a shame to have it killed, but I cannot risk one of my staff being hurt by it. Then let the guards carry tranquilizers, Eva said, straightening her car clip to her clip. Subject 13 has been shown to have what Dr. Ross furrowed his brow. An elevated metabolism. Eva raised her chin. Then make it cetamine. That would take out a bulb. The 2 doctors looked at each other for a moment. Dr. Ross nodded and held out a hand. Let me see the file. Eva handed it to him and watched as he produced a pen from his pocket and signed above the line on the first page, retracting the pen with a click. He handed the file back to her. 13 is all yours. Thank you, said Eva. She gave him a smug smile and turned to walk into her office. Hands on hips, she surveyed the area that had become her life. It was a square room, 25 feet on all sides. Her desk sat at one end, and several tables were placed strategically for maximum efficiency and movement. Lamps for lighting, shelves bolted into the chart-lined walls full of incidents and works in progress. This was her lab, her research room. But now, she would be doing much of her research in the procedure room beneath. She smiled. Now she could get somewhere. Eva made her way beneath as soon as she finished her lunch. Warden, she barked, as her shoes scuffed the concrete floor. The door to his office opened, and he walked out, looking at her as if he would rather she were anyone else. Yeah. I would like Subject 13 taken to the procedure room, please. Yes, ma'am, Brenton mumbled. He picked up a walkie-talkie and held it to his mouth. 2 guards at cell 13. He clipped the walkie-talkie back onto his belt and walked down the hallway. Eva followed with brisk steps. 2 guards waited outside the cell. Heavy-duty tranquilizer guns already pointed at the door. Their eyes darted to every corner, and their stance was uneasy. Apparently, stories about what 13 had done to previous guards were handed down through respective security generations. Hang on, said Brenton, walking over to the keypad by the door. There was a red button above the square with the other numbers. What are you doing? Asked Eva, as he poised a finger to push it. We have the sound barrier on, the warden explained. We do it so we don't have to hear it when the subjects are making a lot of noise. I have to make sure 13's not in one of its moods. Eva nodded. She'd read about the subject's moods in the file last night. Though physically in the best condition of all of the current subjects, 13 was classified as volatile, unstable, and mentally traumatized. It was prone to attacks that included screaming and violence. Go ahead, she said, and the warden pressed the button. Sound immediately spilled from the speaker in the middle of the door, and it took Eva a moment to distinguish what the noise actually was. She realized it was screaming, just as the file had said. But it was like no screaming she had ever heard before. It was animal. She was surprised that 13 still had vocal cords with which to scream, if it was in the habit of throwing fits like this. Brenton turned the button off, as sounds of hollow pounding began to burst from the speaker. Well, he asked Eva, sticking his hands in his pockets. Please sedate it, said Eva. He nodded and began typing in a new code. He had special gas chambers installed in the cells of the more violent subjects. It releases a heavy sedative through the air vents in the ceiling. A wise move, Eva conceded. How long will it take until it's sedated? She nodded. About 20 seconds. The vents will clear the air after, so it's safe to go inside. I would like to wash, she said. Brenton sighed and typed in another code. The outer door pulled open, and this time Eva could make out a figure in the darkness. Subject 13's serial number glowed brightly, and its eyes turned to match. It took her a moment to realize the pounding she heard before was 13 slamming its head against the walls of the cell. A faint white blur appeared from several vents in the ceiling. Gas silently filled the cell. 13 stopped thrashing, and in the darkness, Eva watched the number on 13's chest lower as the subject slid to the floor. There, said Brenton. It's safe to go in now. Eva nodded and motioned towards the guards. They tensed and raised their guns. The plexiglass lifted, and Eva waited inside the cell, while the guards stepped in and lifted 13 by the arms. Eva stepped back as they half-dragged, half-carried the subject down to the end of the hallway, where the procedure room sat waiting. The room was concrete, like everywhere else beneath. But unlike the other rooms, it was full of workbenches, shelves, racks. The walls were lined with instruments. A sink stood in the corner for sanitary reasons. The floor sloped gently inwards towards the middle, and in the center of the room was a large, weight-covered drain. Please, strap him to the table, she ordered. Though the guards were already doing so. Apparently they had done this many times before. During normal procedures, thick straps went around the subject's ankles, thighs, wrist, chest, and neck to prevent thrashing. But 13 was different, and Eva watched with slowly rising eyebrows as the guards worked to hook 13's harness and bolts, placed 4 inches apart on the sides of the table, buckling them down with nervous hands. The harness looked fairly medieval, but that did not stop it from being effective. It fit around the subject's upper body with 2 stiff, thin pieces of metal down the sides, and buckles connected all of the way around with belts. The subject's arms were pinned to its side and buckled with several other straps, and there were several thick loops in the back so the subject could be hooked to a wall or a machine. It weighed almost 20 pounds, and made escape nearly impossible for whatever subject wore it. Not that many subjects had the strength or willpower to attempt to escape. As far as Eva knew, 13 was the only one who wore a harness at the moment. "Leave me room to work, please," she said. Caution was commendable, but there was such a thing as overdoing it. As Eva put on her tight surgical gloves, she studied the subject strapped to the table. She knew specifics from his file: male of mixed origin, early 20s, 6'1", 170 pounds. It had pale, uncut hair, almost white, due probably to the lack of sunlight. Its eyes were Asian in shape, but shone a starling blue underneath the phosphorus. Its face also told of its unclear ethnicity. A thin, well-cut face, a half-mouth, and a strong nose that looked as if it had been broken at least twice. "I wonder how much scar tissue I'll have to work around," Eva mused, as she swabbed the disinfectant across the back of 13's neck. She uncoiled a thin black cord from the wall. One end resembled a plug with needles for prongs. The other end was attached to a large monitor screen on the far side of the room. She walked the cord over to the subject and carefully inserted it into 13's cerebral cortex. The screen came to life, registering the subject's vital signs. "Perfect," murmured Eva. She circled the table and raised it so it stood diagonal to the floor. The subject's eyes were half closed, heavy with sedative. Eva lifted a clipboard, complete with fresh paper and pen, from a nearby table. In her other hand, she picked up a syringe and filled it with a clear liquid called stressamine. Stress for short. It was a simple serum designed to measure strength and endurance of a subject in order to know how much it could physically handle. The two guards at the door shifted uneasily, and Eva glanced over to see them shooting nervous looks at one another. "It is not necessary for you to remain here," she told them, in a clipped tone. Quite honestly, she saw them as a nuisance. There was no way the subject could escape, and she did not need 2 extra disturbances. The first guard snorted. "No offense, Doc. The last time that happened, 2 perusers were killed, and the doctor was turned inside out on the floor." The mental image made Eva's spine tingle. "But surely, that was before you added the extra restraints," she said, motioning towards the subject that was so well strapped to the table. She wondered if she would have to undo some of the restraints simply to do her job. The guards hesitated for a moment, but the moment was brief. "We'll be right outside the door," said one. And as he left, the other added, "If you need us. The panic button is right there." He motioned toward the red button under a glass case on the wall. "Thank you," Eva said impatiently. "You are excused." He nodded and left the room, closing the door behind him. Eva breathed a sigh of relief. Alone, now she could concentrate. She inserted the vial of stress into the subject's bloodstream and waited. It generally took 30 seconds to a minute for the serum to take effect. Her eyebrows rose when 13's glassy eyes flew open, glowing as the subject's muscles straightened and tightened. A sheen of sweat broke out over its skin, and the subject began to writhe, struggling against its restraint. Quick metabolism, Eva noted. Dr. Ross had mentioned that. The subject gasped, and the gasp became a growl. Its veins stood out from its skin, blue and purple under the white light of the room. Eva wondered if it would actually manage to escape the restraints. She looked over at the monitor. Vital signs were battling high levels, from heart rate to muscular control. "Keep calm, Eva. This is the normal reaction." The drug's effect never lasted long, 10 minutes at the most. It was often a prelude to the surgeries or medical experimentation, and had proven very effective in measuring the subject's endurance. As a student, she had been allowed to watch during several procedures and was familiar with the routine. She watched, her pen jotting down notes on the paper as the subject battled, helpless against the overwhelming physical demands. Eva was surprised to note how well 13 resisted the stressamine when compared to the studies of previous subjects. She had read about 13's high performance in the files, but it was different witnessing it firsthand. Because the subject had an abnormally fast metabolism, the stress wore off in under 8 minutes. 13 sagged against the restraints, its hair plastered to its forehead with sweat. Eva knew that stress produced so much sweat that the subjects often became dehydrated afterwards. So she crossed the room to the cooling unit and brought back a bottle of filtered water. Carefully, she did not want to have her hand bitten off. She pushed the subject's head back and tilted the water into his mouth. 13 swallowed several mouthfuls and watched her, panting as she withdrew. Too much water in the subject's system could dilute the drug and hamper her research. Eva looked over at the monitor again. Heart rate was slowing back down. It was already below 80. Muscle tension was easing. The blood flow slowing to normal. Satisfied, Eva marked it down on the clipboard and put it back down on the table. Now for the real work.
The doctor is very happy with your patronage. Come see me and schedule your next appointment.